Our Collision 2017 coverage is proudly powered by Monster Products. Find the headphones and speakers that match your style at PLUGHITZlive.com/monster.
Yep, we've got our next guest here. Hello.
Hello, how are you today?
Fantastic. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Go ahead and introduce yourself for me.
Sure. My name is Meka Egwekwe. I'm one of the co-founders as well as the executive director for CodeCrew. We are a nonprofit based in Memphis that teaches children to write software. And so we do that with a keen interest in underrepresented groups, especially African Americans, Latinos, and girls. We work with about 200 kids a week in Memphis, teaching them how to build mobile apps, video games, websites, program drones, things like that. We do that through 8 after-school programs and 3 in-school electives and weekend video game development and an internship program.
Okay, so, wow.
What age range do you guys focus on?
Mostly middle and high school.
Okay.
So we started with a single summer camp in the summer of 2015, what we call the Grizzlies Code Camp, that was funded by the Memphis Grizzlies Foundation.
Okay.
And that was middle school kids at a community center in the center of town. Now that's grown to those multiple programs I described. And so we grew from middle school up to high school, and now we're at a single elementary school, but the youngest age is 4th grade right now. And we certainly aim to be a K through 12 program eventually.
So the idea got started in 2015, you said?
That's right. In 2015, in May of 2015, we started with that single pilot summer camp. At the same time, we were myself and my 2 co-founders, Petya Grady and Audrey Jones. We were organizing CodeCrew through the Start Code Tech Accelerator in Memphis. Mm-hmm. All of us came from tech backgrounds, and none of us had ever run a nonprofit before. So we needed to learn that a nonprofit was a business like any other, just different tax structure and so forth in terms of what you do with the revenue.
Right.
And certainly our mission is committed to the community in a way that's that's common for nonprofits. And so we learned about that while at the same time doing that pilot, and now that's grown again to the success that we've achieved so far.
Okay, so when you first started out, were you based around like a certain school or a group of schools, or how did this work out?
So we started with just a community center.
Okay.
Right? And we still continue at that community center with summer and after-school programming. But now we've got additional after-school programs that are directly in schools. We've got in-school electives that are also directly in schools. So the after-school programs are once a week, 90 minutes a week on a semester basis. And then the in-schools are actually 4 or 5 days a week where kids actually earn a grade from us because we plug into the electives framework of the school, and we're trying to introduce another level of rigor for kids such that they'll be more inclined to pursue computer science for college, career, or entrepreneurship.
And which electives do you offer?
And on the high school level, we have a semester of JavaScript and then a semester of Python. And in the middle school level, it's really more of a comprehensive introduction to computer science that's heavily web development focused, so on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in particular.
I think that is really cool because being a college student, I just learned these skills last year.
Oh, sure.
Python was what they started us out with.
Absolutely, and in fact, that's exactly why we teach Python to juniors and seniors in high school, is because we want them to go to college and pursue computer science, and increasingly that's the most popular programming language for freshman programming classes is Python. So that's very deliberate on our part. And then JavaScript is certainly the lingua franca of the internet, and so we figured that those 2 programming languages are the most important for kids in high school to be learning if we're going to push them towards college.
Okay, definitely.
So, how did you get involved in this? Where did your personal passion come into starting this?
Well, so in the tech education space, I give credit to Black Girls Code.
Okay.
In 2012, I've got 2 daughters, and I really was just trying to sign them up for this great program I saw on CNN called Black Girls Code, and they have a chapter model, and there was no chapter in Memphis, and so we. Myself and a couple of others reached out to them and eventually organized a chapter in Memphis that I ran for 2.5 years. I left that to form CodeCrew and went from there. So that's sort of where I got started in tech education. I've personally always been interested in kids. I've been taking kids on college tours for 12 years now personally. So
that's awesome.
So this is an opportunity for me to bring my tech background of a 19-year professional career as a software developer with my passion for kids and hopefully make an impact in Memphis. And one of the reasons why we're here in New Orleans is because we're looking heavily at perhaps expanding to this great city as well.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Thank you.
I am curious. I know some people look at like programming and coding as like, oh, that's not something for me. How do you encourage them to try it out?
And you're hitting it right on the head, is that a lot of kids self-select because they have an idea in their head of what a software developer or a coder or a programmer is.
And culture and people around them have told them what is right for them.
That's right.
Because if you haven't tried it, you don't know if it's right for you.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so that's one of the great things that comes out of what we do is that we get kids in to try it, and we recognize that computer science is not for everybody, but at least now kids are making an informed decision as to whether or not this is something they can do versus just assuming it's for a white or Asian male, right? And so in Memphis, our largest demographics are African American females, African American males, Caucasian females, and then Latinos are our fastest growing group. Well, all of them are woefully underrepresented in computer science. We can't expect to be prosperous as a city unless we get more young people to pursue these 21st century lucrative careers. And so it's as much as we're teaching them about coding, we're teaching them to see themselves differently, right, and to think differently, and give it a try. And for those that learn that this is not rocket science and that they have the aptitude for it, they go on to excel in it.
Get people out of the stereotypes that they're not actually involved in, that are just passed down to them.
Exactly. And you couple that also with, not only is there a stereotype, that gap that's because of that stereotype, but there's also a gap because it's genuinely a true access gap, right? And so, and then couple that with the greater thread that's going on in our nation, where we have just in the past 30 years, because of such a strong focus on standardized testing, we spent less time on any things that are not on that test, right? And so be it computer science,
focusing on teaching.
Exactly, and we're teaching, but we're teaching to a test, and I think we're going to suffer as a nation as a result of that. And so CodeCrew is directly hitting that head on, right? We want kids to have a well-rounded experience, and while I can't teach them art or music, we can definitely take my background and my colleagues' backgrounds in technology and apply that to a more well-rounded individual.
Sure, and it's the same movement we saw a couple of decades ago in music in particular, where it was mostly white males and females in professional orchestra and stuff like that. And today that's not the case at all,
right?
Because the cultural perception around the industry was changed,
right?
And so now the next big important thing is knowledge work. It's what's going to keep a city alive, because the Philharmonic is great, but it's not going to keep a city alive.
Right. In city and country, quite frankly. I mean, while we're starting in Memphis, we're solving the problem of a lack of diversity in technology because we have to. Our prosperity depends on it, right? Boston and Denver and Portland and Seattle, they can totally ignore this and still be prosperous, right? We can't do that, right? And so, but that's fine, right? Because if we prove that we're doing this and well, doing this right and well.
That was the best.
That's classic, isn't it? That we have a gift to the rest of the nation in terms of how you can address diversity, the lack of diversity in the space. So, yes, that's a first for me. So I appreciate I'll have to tell that story of the slip up.
That was pretty funny. I can tell you, as somebody who runs a software company, at one point we were 12 developers, and we had a very diverse team of developers. Guy from Japan, and seriously a very diverse, 2 Hispanics, Lloyd who's black, and we tried very hard to keep it.
Sure.
Because my experiences and your experiences, even in the software world,
right,
our experiences are totally different.
They are.
I want your perspective because it'll make everything better. I'm totally on board with this.
Well, excellent, and I think even McKinsey, I think I'm accrediting it. I can't even say the word, but
That's okay.
McKinsey gets the credit for an article, a report recently where they showed that that companies with diverse backgrounds in terms of their like engineering workforces in particular are 35% more likely to have above average financial returns, and so it actually makes good business sense also to have as much diversity as you can accomplish, and you don't want to be myopic in terms of any product that you produce. So
our job as a software engineer is to solve problems,
absolutely.
usually ones that nobody's ever solved before.
Absolutely.
Right? Because if it's been solved before, who's going to pay you to do it? Nobody. So
Right.
you're always doing things that have never been done before, and having more ideas on how to solve said problem can only be better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we've done a poor job in our country addressing that. I think that's a product for a lot of reasons, right? Including, insufficient funding for public education, especially. But, we can turn that around, right? It is not too late. But if we don't do something about it and be very intentional about it, then we will lose out to China and India and so many other nations that are beginning to clean our clocks with respect to the tech space. So we want to be leaders and continue to be leaders, and the only way we can do that is if we actually focus on these reserves that we've unfortunately overlooked in our nation historically. So yes, so I'm preaching that gospel of computer science education, as I say jokingly, to any and everyone that will listen, especially around underrepresented groups, and taking advantage of this untapped potential we have as a nation.
Definitely.
Well, good.
And we love it.
Yeah, I look
Thank you.
forward to seeing a much more diverse engineering landscape in the future, thanks to your work.
Well, thank you so much. I look forward to that dream come true too, and hopefully these kids are so successful I can come work for them.
Yeah.
If people want to get more information about your organization, how can they do that?
So our website is code-crew.org. That's code-crew.org. You can certainly follow us on Facebook. Just look for CodeCrew, but the one in Memphis. There's a couple of other organizations that have the same name around the world. And then also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at _CodeCrew. No dash in that case, just _CodeCrew on Twitter or Instagram. So you can certainly see us there.
Sounds awesome.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me again. The honor's all mine.
Well, have a good rest of the day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Bye.